Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to ruin their life. Nobody says, today I think I'll stop following God. But it happens, slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time. Before the fall comes the drift. That's exactly what we see in the life of Samson. His downfall didn't begin with Delilah. It began long before that with small decisions that seemed harmless. Now, this short teaching contains just one of the principles I explore in much greater depth in the full-length episode of my podcast, Your Bible Study Mentor. There's a link in the description where you can watch the entire episode and download the free study guide that comes with it. I encourage you to do that after this video. In Judges chapter 14, Samson hasn't failed yet. His strength is still intact, his reputation still solid, but the spiritual erosion has already begun, and it starts in the smallest of ways. Judges 14:1 says, Samson went down to Timnah and saw a Philistine woman. That doesn't sound dramatic, but it's the first crack in the foundation. Timnah wasn't part of Israel. It was enemy territory, Philistine land. Samson didn't end up there by accident. He went there intentionally. And that's how the drift always begins. You don't crash into sin, you wander into it, step by step. Spiritually speaking, Samson was already walking downhill. He wasn't running from God, but he also wasn't walking with him. It's like standing in the ocean and thinking you're standing still. You look up a few minutes later and realize the current has carried you far from where you started. That's spiritual drift. When Samson's parents tried to warn him, he said, "Get her for me, for she's right in my eyes." You get that? Samson doesn't say she's right in God's eyes. He says she's right in mine. That's what happens when compromise takes root. We start making our own eyes the standard of truth. Pride whispers, "You've been walking with God long enough. You can trust your instincts." But that's how we drift, not by denying God, but by quietly replacing His judgment with our own. Well, later in Judges 14:6, we read that the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson and he tore a lion apart with his bare hands. Now, that's incredible. God's Spirit was still empowering him, but here's the paradox. Samson's gift was still active even while his heart was drifting. Sometimes we mistake spiritual activities for spiritual health. We assume because God is still blessing me, I must be fine. But sometimes God lets the blessing continue, not as approval, but as patience. The drift is dangerous because you can still look strong on the outside while you're slowly collapsing on the inside. Samson, well, he doesn't tell his parents about the lion or the honey he takes from its carcass. He starts keeping secrets. That's what happens when we drift. We stop confessing, we stop being transparent, we start managing our image instead of our heart. You can measure drift by silence. The less we talk to God and the fewer people we allow to speak into our lives, the further we've already drifted. Before Samson ever lost his physical strength, he lost his spiritual sensitivity. Before he broke his Nazirite vows, he broke his connection with God. Maybe you're in a season right now where your heart has started to drift. You're not rebelling, you're just distracted, careless, spiritually tired. And maybe this is God's gentle warning to come back before the drift becomes a fall. The story of Samson reminds us that it's not the giant failures that destroy us, it's the small, ignored compromises that add up over time. If you want to go deeper into this passage, Judges 14, I unpack this whole section in much more detail in my podcast, Your Bible Study Mentor. There's a link in the description where you can watch the full episode and download your free study guide, or you can just click right here as well. I think it'll really help you reflect and grow. Before the fall comes the drift, but before the drift becomes permanent, there's grace. So take one small step back toward God today. If this teaching helped you, share it with someone who might need that reminder. I'm Dr. Mario Escobedo, your Bible study mentor. God bless.